They're so great. These are great posters. I love them so much. It's so good. All right, let's do this. Hey everyone. So as you can see, we've moved studios. And what we also did during this time is hit over 200 subscribers, which is awesome. So normally in our interviews, we have these specific questions that we like to ask. And during this transitional period, we decided to compile all our favorite answers to those questions and give them to you as like our favorite moments for these questions. Since some of you are new, you probably haven't seen the older videos, so this is a good chance to kind of get up to speed on who we've interviewed. Yeah, so enjoy this, and thank you so much for 200 subscribers. It was emotional. I friggin' nailed it. But I have some note cards of questions I have.
Okay.
What was Donald Pleasance like? No. What's it like to work with Rob Zombie? Oh, this was one. How tall are you? Oh, never mind. Now this one, what scared you growing up? This is kind of the thing with our show, so we'll keep that. Before the influence of movies, what scared you the most? Did you have a fear of the dark or a monster under the bed?
Ooh. Cookie Monster was the first thing to scare me. And then I think E.T., and then it went on to Gremlins. So I think it was, I always say, like, if the Muppets walked in my front door, like I would run screaming because that's kind of scary, right? So, because it's not supposed to be actually happening. So I think that that a combination of Sesame Street and the Muppets scared me growing up, and maybe some Joe Dante films like Gremlins and Piranha, which is why I'm scared of fish.
That's a good question. It really depends what specific age there was. I think when you're young, you have two kinds of fears. One is the fear of the fantastical, which is like, oh, there's something in the dark, or somebody, a guy with a mask might come into my house and kill me or whatever. And then you have the fears that are much more grounded and kind of more elemental, like, my parents might die or something, or these things that seem so permanent aren't permanent at all. And sometimes as a kid you do experience those things, or you see people or love experience them, and that is I think more viscerally terrifying than there's a monster in the closet or something. And all that stuff is it becomes ingredients later if you end up writing horror.
In general, I never really was that afraid of spiders, or I wasn't afraid of heights, so I don't feel like I had a lot of fears actually growing up.
It was clowns. It was I don't know, back in the 60s, everybody used to have like painted clown pictures in their house, nice oils of clowns. And so I remember specifically thinking this clown was kind of creepy and asking Dad if they could take it down.
I guess I would say ghosts. Like when I was really little, It's always been about like the paranormal for me. That's the thing I think that scared me the most when I was youngest.
For me as well, I think the first house that I lived in was haunted. Doors would shut on their own, and I think one time it was just me and my sisters at home, and a stereo started playing, and my oldest sister went down and shut it off, and then came up to get me and started playing again. And so I think she just scooped me up with like one shoe on. I think we like left out the window, not even like the door. We just wanted to get rid of there. So yeah, supernatural definitely freaked me out. It was an eerie feeling in that first house. I'm glad we left.
You know, that's an amazing question. It's a great question. It's a great question. My dad was a combat veteran, and he had PTSD, and he would get violent. He was a really good, interesting guy, but he would get violent, and there was a fair amount of shouting and whatnot when I was a kid, and I was certainly scared of my dad, or I was scared of my dad's anger, which maybe was being scared of my dad, and I was scared of adults.
Ghostbusters. I saw Ghostbusters when I was really young, and I like too young to really understand what it was I was watching. I just remember that dog thing attacking that guy, Rick Moranis, of course, in front of a restaurant full of people and nobody cares. And I think that like really shook me. It was really, I was like, but they all saw it and no one's doing anything. They're just sitting there.
A house I half grew up in, it was my stepdad's house, haunted, and their basement literally like going into hell. And one time my stepsisters locked me in it, wouldn't let me out, and I was terrified out of my mind when I was like 9, 10, 11, something like that. It was fucking evil. Evil stepsisters.
Well, you know what scared me the most? I don't know. I think I've always just, as far back as I remember, I'm just afraid of dying. So I just don't want to die, and I know I will, but I'm doing my best to stave it off.
Many kids are first introduced to horror through children's stories or fairy tales like Little Red Riding Hood or Billy Goat's Gruff. Was there a particular children's story you remember scaring you?
Yeah, The Exorcist. Oh wait, that's not right.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's funny because you hear all these fairy tales now, as you get older, and I have 2 kids, and so we do read fairy tales sometimes, and I'm always surprised how dark a lot of them are, especially the old, the Grimm's fairy tales and stuff like that. But yeah, Hansel and Gretel was very scary to me. And I don't know if you've seen the movie that came out recently by Oz Perkins. It's really good and very scary.
Well, I really thought Hansel and Gretel was one of the scariest fairy tales. And I was incredibly excited that Wes used it in New Nightmare, because I'd always loved it. But I was a big fan, not only of fairy tales, but of Greek myths. And strangely, at my school, they had a unit for reading that was all about the Greek myths. And I think my favorite myth were the myths about the Minotaur that was inside the deep cave, and every year they would sacrifice young people to go in and have to battle the Minotaur. And like all of those Greek myths, I thought they really, I don't know, excited my imagination. And so as I grew up, I kept reading more and more about Greek mythology, and studied Latin and did all sorts of things, because I just thought those myths and those stories were often not only really scary, but really interesting. Like, I don't know, Prometheus being, I think chained to the rock and the ravens and the vultures eating out his guts. Like there's a lot of horror in the myths. And so I feel like it was a good start to my career.
I feel like I'm gonna think of answers to this all night tonight, and different ones are gonna come back to me because there were a lot at different times.
I really like the Jabberwocky. That was one of my favorite poems when I was little. Yeah, and it was pretty scary for a little kid. My mom used to read to me before I could read, which actually I read pretty late because I'm very dyslexic. But she would read. She read the Odyssey to me, and I loved that story so much. Kind of a little grown up for somebody quite that young, but yeah, it was definitely one of my favorite stories. And let me think. I mean, all of Grimm's fairy tales are pretty freaky, especially if you read the original ones. They're just like, yeah, pretty gory.
Oh my God, yeah. Yeah, there were a bunch. I was a total scaredy cat as a kid. The dark scared me so much. I mean, honestly, it still kind of does. I won't lie. Like, I was working on this music video once, and we were shooting in this abandoned hospital where they film all kinds of creepy stuff. Like all kinds of this. I think they finally closed it down. It's in Los Angeles. But we were filming in the basement of that incredibly creepy hospital. And I guess the shot was they wanted me to like walk down this hallway and then just turn into this completely dark room. And I just said no. They're like, hey, we want you to walk into that room. And I'm like, nope, no, I'm sorry. I can't do it. I can't even see what's in there. There's just simply no way. And so I think it was one of our EPs was nice enough to go into there and wait for me in there. So I knew I wasn't just like walking into the void, which is what happens in my imagination.
No, I didn't have any of those moments where I was scared. I was not scared for Little Red Riding Hood. I thought that was a cool story. The wolf's out there, the wolf's dangerous. I was not saying, don't do it, don't go. See, I've been in the storytelling business. I've been involved in the filmmaking business literally all of my life. I do not remember when I wasn't. So to me, it's all a story. And so, even Bambi, my goodness, even Bambi, I didn't shed a tear. It's animation, for crying out loud. I remember thinking that when I was a kid, cartoons, like, oh, no, it's just a cartoon. So anyway, the answer is no.
My favorite story was definitely Sleepy Hollow, The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, and that one really, I just love the whole headless horseman thing and the Ichabod Crane and just the kind of like, I remember having like a little book of the story, and I remember the imagery being like kind of like very scary to me, but I was also like very drawn to it. That's why I loved whenever Tim Burton did actually the movie, because I just love his vision of Sleepy Hollow. I thought it was super cool, like just the visuals that he had at that time, like doing that. So me growing up, Sleepy Hollow for me was one of my favorite scary books. I thought it was just such a cool tale.
There's an Italian monster named Mangiolet. Mangia's to eat, and Mangiolet eats children that aren't asleep. And so that was scary. My mom felt the need to tell us about that so that we wouldn't leave our beds. So that was a scary thing.
Ooh, that's a good question. Not really. I don't think we spent much time reading fairy tales. I think my family was sort of more like the Nancy Drew and the, sort of the mysteries more so than the fairy tales. Even now, I don't really read too many fairy tales to my kids. And when I do watch Disney movies, I hope that they know that it's bullshit.
Did you ever make your own movies when you were a kid? And if so, do any copies of the movies still exist?
Yeah, they do. They're on High 8 video. Do you know what High 8 is? That format? It's
gonna
like
have to
it's like
remind me.
one of the earlier forms of video. But yeah, I've wanted to make movies since I was like 12 or 13 years old. I think that was when I really decided that that's what I wanted to do and got super obsessed with it. And I think, I tried to make little films with my friends that were mostly silly, and they were mostly just like for our own amusement, and I am terrified to go back and look at them and see what's actually on them, because I'm sure there's because it's unfiltered 12 or 13-year-olds just being ridiculous. So I'm sure there's a lot of stuff on there that I'd be embarrassed about. But one of these days I'll pull them out. I also don't have a High 8 camera to play the tapes on. So, maybe I'll digitize them at some point so they're not lost, but they're not great. I'll tell you that.
Do you still have any of your cartoons and drawings from this time?
I saved some stuff that I had done. I used to do comic books with my own cast of characters, all based on other people's casts of characters. And my grandmother, we used to hold on to all that stuff. And eventually, I sent it all to the Motion Picture Academy, because those are the people who take all the stuff that you don't want, would ordinarily throw out. And they say, well, no, maybe someday some researcher will want to look at what you did. And, you got to figure out some kind of connection with your work and what you were influenced by. So I have that. And I also had a thing where I had a shoebox that I cut off a screen on, and I took the stories that I was doing originally for comic books, and I would do them on pieces of paper, and I would tape them all together, and I would wind them up, and it would be like almost like a film reel. And then I would run them through the shoebox for my little brother. And I had done, I think, maybe 30 of these things, which were all, of course, ripoffs of movies I'd seen, but all with my cast of characters. And those, I think, also reside at the Motion Picture Academy.
Did anyone film your performance, and would it still exist?
My family did not own a movie camera. So that's sad, right? But that idea, all through my childhood, we don't have any home movies or any motion pictures of my life. And it's kind of nice that way. I mean, I can't go back and get embarrassed by what I did as a child, but on the other hand, the only representative, images I have are stills. And, even then my family wasn't big photo takers.
Sarah, I read you were in a stage production of Grease when you were 13 years old. What character did you play, and are there any recordings that still exist?
Oh, unfortunately.
Please say yes, there are.
Yes, there is. I played Sandy. It was, I think, the first and last stage production I did.
Man, I wish. They're so bad. They're so horrible. And if I could find those, I would love it. I think they all got wiped out. Honestly, when I moved from Pensacola, we had so many hurricanes come through the property that my grandmother still had. And I think it wiped out all my VHS movies that were just, it's a bummer because they were really funny. But it's also one of those things where you're like, I hope no one ever sees those because they're so ridiculous and, so cheesy. But, we were kids. So we were just having a good time. It'd be cool. I would personally like to see the stupid stuff that we did because it was really just so silly. More nostalgic for me.
Yes. So yes, they do exist. No one will ever see them. But they do. They exist.
It is epically silly. Yeah, I've got to dig that up. I mean, I'm not going to let anybody see it, but just for my own amusement.
We would make these shorts with our friends. We'd have them come over, and we would just shoot different short films of us and our friends like killing each other. We would just make up these little scenarios that would really be almost no story, and it would just be just senseless murder. And just like we would, like if you could point the camera out into the backyard, we would like sneak up behind one of the other guys and like bash him in the head and then drag him off and throw him in the garbage or something, and that would be the whole story, and we would just do as many variations on friend murder as we could, and they would murder us too. I mean, it was an equal opportunity murders. Yeah. Oh man, I would pay someone $1 million if they had those somewhere. I mean, it's just, I would love to see those more than anything else I've ever made. I doubt if any of them still exist, because we were just dumb. So it's like we would make all these little dumb shorts, and then we would probably just record over it, like record a Chucky movie or something off a cable, over top of it,
You began making movies in high school. Do any of those movies still exist? And also, can anyone still see Xanadu 2 Bloodlust?
I've heard there's some weird bootleg copy of it still floating around colleges. So it's possible. I don't know where these films have gone. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, they were all on VHS, and I'm sure are beyond degraded and long gone. I wish I had actually kept them. I wish I had somehow transferred them or done something with them, because I remember, they were ridiculous, because Xanadu 2 wasn't even just a sequel to Xanadu. It was a zombie movie. Like, it made no sense at all, but it was fun.
You formed opinions about the monster movies you saw and began sending letters to the editor of Famous Monster magazine. One of those letters was published, and we have a copy here. Dante's Inferno was the...
That's
you
it.
did.
I was, I believe, 13 when I sent that letter. And the reason I sent the letter was because the Famous Monsters was the go-to magazine for anybody who was interested in that kind of stuff. And everybody wanted to get their name in the magazine. And so I sent letters about my favorite horror movies and the best horror movies and the scariest horror movies. None of them got published. And then I sent one that I said the worst horror movies. And it was a bogus letter because I hadn't even seen some of them, but I had to make 50. So I picked a whole bunch out of a book and said, "Well, these are bad." And to my surprise, I got in the mail from the editor, Fari Ackerman, who was a philatelist, a big package with tons of stamps on it from other countries, and a copy of the magazine. And I opened it up, and here's this whole article, many pages, based on the list that I had sent. Except, of course, I had written it in my 13-year-old style, and he had rewritten it and used big words like symbiotic that I didn't understand what they meant, but I was happy. I took the credit, and that ended up being my first experience of getting into print.
This is a photo of me and my dad on a movie set. My father is a location manager and would work out of town a lot when I was younger. I would usually visit him for a week, and he stopped working out of town once I started school. Both my parents are in the film business, and they were together for 16 years before they divorced when I was 5 years old. This is a picture of you and your dad on set.
Yeah.
Our childhoods have some parallels, only you had the added feature of having to share your dad with the world whenever he was home. Can you talk about what that was like and how it informs your career choices now that you're a father?
That's a very insightful question, and we do have a lot of parallels.
So I read that there were two books very important that were very important to you at this time. One was The Art of Theatrical Makeup for Stage and Screen by Michael Westmore, and Making a Monster by Al Taylor. Who introduced you to these books, and are they the basis of your early training?
Yes, so I feel like you broke into my house last night and you took all my stuff. So
Yes,
you
that's
did
exactly what we
why
did.
you yada.
So I have a question. May I show you something I have from Foo Fighters?
Oh, sure, yeah.
My dad and my mother got this years ago, and it's the band, and they all signed it. We also
Gus?
have Gus. Yeah, Gus.
Friend. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so funny. I saw that. Gus, yeah, we can talk about Gus all day. He's an old friend of mine.
It was around this time you met Rob Liefeld at Image Comics. We have what we tried to get all your comics that you wrote.
Right on.
Just
you guys are good.
We have a lot.
Right on.
Can you tell me how you wound up writing comics for Rob Liefeld? And was this before he left Image?
Right.
I have found some of your paintings, and you really paint beautifully.
Oh, thank you.
I have 2 paintings. One of them is called Naked Girl. Could you talk about it?
You printed out my paintings. Oh my gosh. Yes, I painted that in college in like 3 or 4 hours. I just couldn't sleep one night. And I had some acrylics and I was just like, and I thought it turned out really well. And actually it was my brother's favorite of all my paintings. So I just gave it to him.
Who are these guys?
That's me and my brother. Yeah, we were cool like that. See.
So what temperature do you store your cigars, and what's the best cigar you've had with the easiest straw?
You're hilarious.
Your first television commercial was with Sarah Michelle Gellar. Then you began a career in commercials that included everything from Burger King to Tide, games like Operation, and dolls like Real Babies. Let's talk about Gentle Ben. I have a 1968 vintage lunchbox from the show. I've only watched a couple of episodes, so if I had to guess, on the back we have you and the bear. It appears you've set the forest on fire with your pyrokinetic abilities, and you've tackled the scared black bear fleeing from your rage.
Never heard that before, Dax, but that's a good one.
And then on the other side, we have the same bear who has now been beaten into submission, and you deliver added humiliation by flinging her babies at her while your family watches on. Does that about sum up the show?
Well, I don't really recall that episode, Dax, but that's an interpretation of it. You know what? Hey, wait, hang on one second. Just bear with me for 10 seconds. Hold on.
You're an animal lover, although animals don't fare well in some of your stories, but you've been a pet owner most of your life. Were you attacked by a dog when you were younger, and is that why you turned into possums?
I actually was attacked by a dog when I was younger. Is that a picture of me that's a possum?
Those are 2 possums, one there and one up there.
Oh my God.
I think there's 2.
I feel like
there's
this is
2.
some sort of weird dream that I'm having. No, those possums are I think they're rescues. I think that when we lived out in the country, we found some baby possums that were like by themselves, and that's a picture of me with them before we took them to the Humane Society.
Now, this might give you a cutaway for alternative programming, but you got yours. I have mine. Dueling lunchboxes. Yes, sir.
Let's cover high school real quick. You were head cheerleader. The school colors were red and white, and the Bulldogs were the team. This is you.
That's me, baby. You have really done your research, dude.
Thank you.
And you know what? I never thought you. Listen, you're an observant young man. Yeah, I literally seem like I'm throwing this bear cub at Ben. And Ben doesn't really look happy. Looks like, and Dennis is kind of pointing. Everybody's making fun of Ben. Yeah. And let's see, hold on. And in the front, yes. And oh, the poor deer in the background. And Jesus, this is nasty.
This is a photo of your senior year in high school.
Oh, you really do your research. What the hell? What you go to school, right?
Yes, I do go to school. You're already looking like a 35-year-old accountant.
Yes.
Monster making aside, what were you like in high school? And aside from the beard, how much of your high school experience do you think informs who you are today? The Commonwealth Continental Theater was one of Denver's premier showcase theaters when it opened in January 26, 1966 with Charlton Heston's movie The Agony and the Ecstasy, and continued through the 70s and 80s. The theater played host to dozens of large screen 70mm presentations, including Die Hard, the original Star Wars trilogy, The Abyss, and Terminator 2. As I understand it, this was your movie theater. It was walking distance from your house, and I read one of your childhood memories was riding your bike to the theater after school, where you stopped to look at the new poster for Return of the Jedi that was just put out. In 1983, during its run of Return of the Jedi, the theater fell victim to a fire that destroyed part of it. The Rocky Mountain News contained a front-page photo of theater workers rushing the 70mm print of Jedi out of the theater to safety. Do you have any fond memories of the Continental, and do you remember the fire?
Buddy, I worked at the Continental. I worked with Die Hard. I worked when they had Willow. Willow was there, and I was there at the concession stand serving popcorn and soda to everybody. Yeah, there's a lot of memories yeah, I almost bring a tear to my eye, man. I mean, going to the Continental and seeing the Star Wars movies. I saw Batman '66 there. I mean, that was the premier place. That and the Cooper Theater, and the Continental was right by my house, and I just go to the movies all the time. So that is just awesome. What a great photo too.
You became a professional actor on December 6th, 1961. It was a Wednesday. Who was Leon on the Andy Griffith Show, and where did the idea of eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches come from?
Time out, Dax. That's a hell of a piece of journalism. To be able to, because you're right, to be able to uncover the date in which I acted back in 1961. And the fact what day of the week it was a Wednesday. That's pretty good, right in the middle of the week. Well, so I didn't have to stress too much before, and I didn't have to stress. It's good to work on hump day. You see, my life is brilliant. I mean, not brilliant. My life, everything worked out well, because that would be the day I would choose to work. I wouldn't want to work on Monday. I wouldn't want to work on Friday. Let's work on Wednesday. That's cool.
You were born and raised in Burbank, California, and your father was a sound engineer, mostly for television. I heard he would take you to work sometimes, and I believe it was on the animated series Super Friends, where he was working with Ernie Earl Anderson. Ernie Anderson worked as an announcer for ABC television in the 70s, but in the 60s he portrayed Ghouliardi, the host of late-night horror films on WJW Channel 8 in Cleveland, Ohio. He was also the father of the director Paul Thomas Anderson.
Yeah.
Did you and Paul Thomas Anderson know each other as children?
We did. Yeah.
The first job Chuck Jones had in animation was as a cell washer for the co-creator of Mickey Mouse, who left Disney in 1930 to create a character called Flip the Frog. His job was to wash the original paintings from the cells so they could be reused on the next production.
Just think if he hadn't done that, how much you could sell those cells for.
Just about to say all that artwork was lost forever. It's really depressing. I believe your childhood home was located about 5 minutes by car from Tulsa's infamous Hex House. It was here Carol Ann Smith kept 2 women as virtual slaves in her basement during World War II. Victims claimed she held them captive through witchcraft spells and incantations. The house was razed in 1975. Was the Hex House ever a subject of like ghost stories or Halloween traditions growing up?
I am embarrassed to say this is the first time I am ever hearing about the Hex House.
What?
I'll have to look it up. Maybe it was near my house. Oh my God. That's frightening.
Mina, you were born in Newport, Rhode Island. You lived in St. John Virgin Islands for a year, then grew up in Charleston, South Carolina until moving to Los Angeles when you were 14. The Sea Islands, island slave culture of South Carolina's past left a lasting impression on the folk stories of the area. Boo hags were supernatural beings related to witches who would steal a person's breath through an act called writing. They were often described as blood red and would walk around in the skin of their victims. Alexis, you were born in Avonmore, Pennsylvania, but grew up in the Outer Banks of North Carolina. There was a witch trial in Princess Anne County, not far from the border in 1706, where Grace Sherwood was accused by a carpenter named John White of bewitching his livestock and writing his wife. She was bound and tried in water by ducking, which was a medieval method of discovering witches. Sarah, you were born in Nanaimo, British Columbia in Canada. Nanaimo has the beautiful Witchcraft Lake, where there's a legend of the Ahawzat witch from the 1700s. Did you ever hear about these stories, or were there any ghost stories, urban legends, or myths like these and like Bloody Mary that you remember from when you were growing up?
No, I can't believe. I mean, hearing this was a lot of fun because I didn't Witchcraft Lake. That's so cool.
This is the most thoroughly researched interview that I've ever done. You just told me things about myself that I didn't even know about myself or had forgotten about myself.
Wow, you did your homework, bro. That's incredible. Okay, you listened to that, did you? Wow. Okay.
I did. Your mother was an actor and choreographer for Daharan Theater Group. Here she wanted a part, so she went into the audition fully dressed as the character to make sure she landed the role. She won several Grammy Awards for Best Actress for 2 months after, and 2 months after you were born, she was back on stage in a female version of The Odd Couple. There was so much creativity in the household. I heard they'd host dinner parties where they'd change the decor of the house and serve a menu to match. Can you talk about growing up around all this creativity and the theater?
You know, it's so funny hearing you say some of these things that I haven't thought about in such a long time, but it's true. Oh man, you really did your homework. I'm impressed.
That's so funny. No, that's good research, man. You guys,
I don't usually like to ask my guests about other people during their interview, but would you tell me your wife's connection with the Smashing Pumpkins video in 1979?
You even know that?
You sure do your freaking research. There's like one post 100 years ago on my Instagram where I was feeding the baby rats with the eyedropper. What was the last part of the question? Shit.
Did jet lag interfere with your marriage proposal?
Yes. I mean, I have no idea where you got all this information. It must be did I tell those stories in a past interview, or is that what? Why do you know all that?
Boy, where do you get all this information about me, huh?
That's my
Where do you-
secret. That's
My
my
Lord,
secret.
you must have gone back 30 years researching this stuff.
Well, do you have a peace sign tattoo, and where is it located?
Oh, now where did you get that? Yes, I have a peace sign tattoo. All of the women got together when we went back for my stepdad's memorial. And my daughter said, I think we all ought to bond together and get a tattoo. So we did. And it's on my right cheek, not this one.
You also directed the video for the band Super Black Market and their song I Won't Forget You, which could be described as a zombie love story. Do you prefer fast zombies or slow zombies?
You know what? I'm gonna tell you now. I'm a slow zombie guy. You know, I'm like, you have the Night of the Living Dead poster there, and I mean, that movie also. That was another movie that had a big, profound effect on me as a young person, and so I'm Team Romero. You know.
You played Barbara in Night of the Living Dead: Darkest Dawn. Do you prefer fast zombies or slow zombies?
Fast zombies. I think it's scarier.
Throughout the Elm Street franchise, it seemed Freddy could be stopped temporarily, but he never stayed dead. You know what else never stays dead? Zombies. Do you prefer fast zombies or slow zombies?
Oh, I like the slow ones. I like the slow ones. Well, because you get to watch them a little longer and it's so interesting, you know? I mean, ever since, there's all the zombie movies and Walking Dead and all that, which I love. No, I think the slow ones, because then, because now they have classes, where you learn how to do the zombie walk or the zombie neck, whatever. I'm a natural at it.
Your show was called Valerie for the first 2 seasons, then was renamed Valerie's Family before losing its lead star. Then it had a new life as the Hogan Family and even called The Hogans in syndication. After 5 seasons on NBC, the show was canceled, but then revived on CBS for a 6th season. This show was a show that would not die. You know what else doesn't die? Zombies! Do you prefer fast zombies or slow zombies?
Oh, so I would have to go with the slow zombie because I got a chance of outrunning them. So that would be, I'm going with slow zombie. Who would pick a fast zombie?
Fast. Slow zombies, forget about it. Like, slow zombies are not scary. Fast zombies, scary as hell.
So do you prefer fast zombies or slow zombies?
I would say slow zombies for sure. I prefer slow anything to fast anything. And I think part of it is because I think, you're able to, that feels more like reality to me. And that feels more like tapping into a visceral, real dread when you're seeing something happen in slow motion or even in real time, but slowly. Creeping dread is something I'm a fan of for sure.
Do you prefer fast zombies or slow zombies?
Well, I prefer slow zombies because they're slow. But I mean, fast zombies scare me much more than slow ones. Because they're more like rabid animals.
Well, if they're chasing me slow, but if I'm making a movie about them, fast. I like a fast zombie. I mean, when I saw 28 Days Later, I was like, yeah, fast zombies.
They both have their merits, I think. I look at like all the George Romero stuff that I love, or 28 Weeks Later, but I did also like Zack Snyder's movie too. So, and I go either way, whichever's the better movie, whatever movie works as its total.
I prefer clear stakes for a character that I'm rooting for. And if the audience knows there are fast zombies and that they're going to move at that speed and someone has a broken leg, like that's exciting, But if sometimes they move fast and sometimes they move slow, like it's not exciting. Or that could still be exciting, but when you break rules or you don't make clear rules, then it's not fun. Like what I want is a clear set of rules so I can root for the good guys.
Your movies Burying the X and Homecoming involve zombies. Do you prefer fast zombies or slow zombies?
Well, my first experience with zombies was, from movies from the 30s where they shamble around and they're essentially the living dead, and they're in White Zombie, which is kind of the go-to movie for setting up the genre. They're exploited workers who are doing, they're soulless and they've been reanimated and they do menial tasks. Then I Walked with a Zombie, which is made in the 40s, has essentially the same kind of zombies in it, but it's a more artistic movie. But they didn't really call these characters zombies until when Night of the Living Dead came out. They're really ghouls. They're not zombies. But then the zombie appellation suddenly came, and they're like, oh, now it's all zombies. And then the Italians decided to make a whole bunch of these imitations, and now they're all zombies. So there's lots of zombie movies out there. In fact, it's because it used to be a rather despised genre, and now it's like it's a subset of werewolf movies. But as far as zombies go, how I like my zombies, I'm a little closer to the shuffling kind of zombies. I think the fast moving zombies are good and scary, but when I was a kid, we would watch the Mummy movies. People would say, well, but why would the mummy be scary? Because he walks so slow. And I said, yeah, but he always gets his man.
Fast zombies all the way. And in fact, Zack Snyder was really the first to kind of get into fast zombies, like make that a thing. Of course, 28 Days Later, they had some fast zombies, but Zack really made it the whole mission of his movie to have really cool, like the really realistic zombies that move fast.
I like slow zombies. That doesn't mean that I don't like fast zombies. I really like Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead version. I think it's a really, really cool movie. But I like George's. I like Zack's. I'm a fan of both. Everybody can make a zombie movie however they want. I mean, George kind of set the rules, but rules are meant to be broken. So you can kind of like, if you want to make a zombie movie and you have them kind of sachet, then you can do that. So it's kind of in between the walking and the running.
Do you prefer fast zombies or slow zombies?
I prefer Rob Zombie.
Greg Nicotero plays guitar and has a band called The Rocking Dead. He formed with some of the Walking Dead crew. Do you think more songs have been written about love, lust, or heartbreak?
That's a funny question. I think more songs have been written about heartbreak. I think so. Why? What do you think?
Moving on.
I don't know. Do you have the answer to that?
No, I'm wondering what you think.
We're gonna have to Google. We're gonna have to Google this.
Songs written about love, lust, or heartbreak.
Jeez. Wow, that's a hard question.
I was just writing a bunch of that out to a friend I'm going to make music with yesterday, literally, about all the fuel I have. I think ultimately it's heartbreak. I think usually people are propelled to create and express when they're feeling pain, but there are a million love songs out there. But I think what really is more of a driving force is the pain.
I want to say heartbreak, only because I'm trying to think back to like the first songs.
Oh, wow. I would say equal parts.
But it might be love. It might be love or heartbreak. It's one of those two. It's definitely not lust. I mean, if you were only to listen to music from 2000 on, you would probably think that that's what it was. But it's just less nuance every year.
love, everybody's searching for love. I mean, there's somebody wrote a song about that. I mean, you know, lust. Oh, people have written songs about that. Heartbreak Hotel.
No, I totally agree, because it made me wonder, like if you're, I don't know, maybe you're just busy because you're in love, right? Like
Yeah.
you don't have as much time. So your heartbreak, you're more like with yourself. You have to express it.
So true.
I don't write songs, clearly.
Heartbreak. Well, that's just trying to add it all up. Think of all country western songs out there.
Oh,
They're
yeah.
all about heartbreak,
I think I always go for the darker, so I think Heartbreak. But I would probably say there's a lot of almost similar material in each one of those. But I tend to like to hear the songs about people being bummed out about being dumped or things like that. Because I like the darker edge of things. I like when things go dark. Even dark endings of movies make me happy.
I would say there's more songs about love. Yeah, and I think, I think probably, because I mean, heartbreak and love, and in many ways, lust are all kind of similar in many ways. Yeah, I think love.
Boy, love, lust, or heartbreak. You know, I think unfortunately more songs have been written about heartbreak, but it's for a good reason, is that it's healing to sing. And so people sing about sadness. They sing about joy too, but I think that my hunch is more things have been written about heartbreak.
You know, those three things, in all seriousness, those three things are at the core of the human existence. I think people that don't have a lust for love or lust or heartbreak. Wait, hold on. No, I just said it wrong. I don't believe anybody lusts for heartbreak. I think heartbreak happens because you yearn for love. It's a great question, Dax.
Honestly, I'm thinking of the song Greensleeves, because that's like one of the first songs that there's record of, like a complete song that was written and composed on paper, and it was a song. And that's medieval, and that's about being in love, but it's also like causes you so much pain. I don't know if you can sing about love without singing about heartache. Like even songs that are about being in love address heartache. It's kind of funny. Like, I love you so much, it hurts. My heart hurts. It's so painful being in love.
Yeah, I started writing songs, and it was like my therapy, and that was really the only time that I felt inspired to write. And because it is just, for me, it really helps the emotion move through me, and it's emotions that I want to move through me and out. So it was very useful for me, and very cathartic. So yeah, I would definitely say heartbreak is the biggest inspiration.
How about you, Kevin? What do you think?
Heartbreak, for sure. Yeah.
You played the role of the pious sister Marie Lubbock for 3 seasons on the sitcom Just the 10 of Us. The show was a spinoff from the hit Growing Pains. 2 other actresses on the show appear in the Elm Street franchise, and there are references to the movie throughout the series. Your character, along with 3 of her sisters, form a singing group called the Lubbock Babes and sing songs like Born to be Wild, Dancing in the Streets, and you sing a sultry rendition of Unchain My Heart. I have a question I like to ask my guests who sing or play instruments. Do you think more songs have been written about love, lust, or heartbreak?
Ooh. Heartbreak. I think more songs are written about heartbreak. You're really inspired to sit down and write about your pain. When you're in love, you're so excited about being in love, you don't take the time sometimes to write about it. But when you're heartbroken and the person's out of your life or you don't know how to get them back, you have a lot of extra time on your hands. So you write songs about being heartbroken.
Heartbreak.
Makes
There you go.
sense.
Glass is half empty. Sorry.
So this last question is Sophie's choice. Which would you keep and the other two get killed off? Would you keep Snake Plissken, McCready, or Jack Burton?
Ooh, God. Ooh, I think. Oh, that's so hard. Okay. So I'm gonna go. I hate to say this. This is a question where, like, no matter how I say it, people will be like, "Oh, hell no." Jack Burton, I think, is gone. I think he's killed off. If McCready and Snake Plissken, ooh, that's a hard toss up because they're totally two different kind of characters. But I'm gonna kill off. Oh God, I hate to answer this. I'm gonna kill McCready off because Snake Plissken is such a tough guy. I think we always need him in the corner. I think we always need him.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna keep Snake Plissken, and he's also one of the first introductions to the John Carpenter film. So there's a soft spot in my heart for that character.
So this last question is usually a Sophie's choice. Two must die so that one may live. I want to do something a little different with you. Melissa from Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead, Molly from Roseanne, and Darian from The Last Boy Scout. They're all 18 years old and stuck in a cabin in the woods with a mass killer on the loose. Which one makes it as the final girl and why?
What are my options again? Darian,
Molly, and Melissa.
Oh, I mean, Darian, she's the smartest for sure. You know, that scene where I don't know if you've seen the movie, but I put a gun in a puppet and I walk up to my dad in the middle of the woods when he's surrounded by mobsters, and I give him the puppet to make it talk, and inside there's a handgun and he's able to shoot everybody. So I think Darian's probably the one that's smart enough and the toughest anyway.
This last question is a Sophie's choice. Two must die so one may live. Bottle Rocket, Wet Hot American Summer, or Booty Call.
So first of all, congratulations. You've done your research. It's amazing, actually, to hear. So thank you for that. But this is an impossible choice that you're giving me right now. I think I have to go with what I'd actually want to watch now and what I'd have a fun time with right now. And I think I mean, all of them are special to me, but I probably would eliminate Booty Call. I feel like a lot of the humor of that is sort of the time. I probably would eliminate Bottle Rocket, even though I think it's a brilliant movie and was like incredibly inspiring to me to watch that movie as a 13-year-old and made me want to go make movies. And I would keep Wet Hot American Summer because that's a movie that I cry laughing every time I watch on a consistent basis, and I can't wait to show to my children when they're the right age. So I'm keeping Wet Hot American Summer.
You and your husband run AFX Studio. It's an award-winning special effects makeup company responsible for some of the greatest creature and makeup effects over the past 30 years. This last question is a Sophie's choice. Two must die so one may live. Twisty the Clown from American Horror Story, Red Devil from Scream Queens, or the Mermaid from Cabin in the Woods.
Oh, Merman.
Not Mermaid. Merman.
So one has to die, or all of them?
Two has to die, so one gets to live.
Twisty gets to live. Yeah, he's gonna go down as like one of the best clowns ever, I think. Scary clowns. Though I have to say, Merman is just such a sweet, lovable, scary, scary. He's not scary. He's not even a monster. He's like a sad merman who has a bloody blowhole. Yeah.
Yes, the bloody blowhole.
That was I invented that moniker for that thing.
This last question is a Sophie's choice. Two must die so that one may live. The works of David Lynch, Peter Greenaway, or John Carpenter. Carpenter. There we go.
Like, do I have to pick one? Is that
You
what
have
you're
to
saying?
pick one to survive.
Oh, well, Peter Greenaway was very important to me at a certain point in my life. At this point, I haven't watched any of his movies in a while. So he would easily probably be the first one to go, even though I feel terrible saying it because I love his movies desperately. And then I feel like John Carpenter and David Lynch are like the two halves of my brain, the like straight up genre, fun, cool, Escape from New York, They Live kind of thing. And then the Eraserhead, Lost Highway, Twin Peaks, Mulholland Drive thing is the other side of my brain. Man, if I had to pick, I mean, I guess I would go with David Lynch movies because every time I watch a David Lynch movie, I see something new, regardless of how many times I've seen it.
So I heard you're an avid reader. This last question is a Sophie's choice. One lives and two dies. The Chronicles of Narnia, Harry Potter, or Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Which one lives?
Oh, bro, this is brutal. Oh. I guess Hitchhikers lives. You made me murder my babies.
This last question is a Sophie's choice. Two must die. So when they live, Mad Magazine, Looney Tunes cartoons, or It Came from Outer Space.
Is this an either or? I don't get all three?
You do not get all three. You only get one.
Well, Mad Magazine was awfully influential to me, and it's really kind of defined my entire approach to life. And so as much as I love Looney Tunes, I think I probably have to go with Mad Magazine.
So the last question is a Sophie's choice. Two must die, so one may live. 1982, Madison Square Garden, Iron Maiden opens for Judas Priest. 1979, Madison Square Garden again, Kiss performs for their Dynasty tour. Or June of 2017, the cover band Zach Sabbath performs at the El Rey Theater in Los Angeles.
Dude, now, see, it's so tough, but the obvious one for me, which I don't think you're gonna guess, but maybe, is Zach Sabbath.
Yep.
Because that's my first date with Lauren.
Yep, I knew it. I knew that. Haha.
You got it.
Yeah.
It was the greatest because she didn't know any music. She didn't listen to heavy metal. She like when we were at the Zach Sabbath concert, and she's like headbanging, having fun, and Zach Sabbath plays the obscure Black Sabbath songs, not even the hits like Paranoid or War Pigs or Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath, but which she wouldn't have known anyway. But when she was having fun doing that, I was like, yes.
So the last question is a Sophie's choice. Two must die so that one may live. Which was music of David Bowie, 7-Eleven Slurpees, or jacuzzis.
Well, okay, 7-Eleven Slurpees is that doesn't even count. I mean, I'll person should just I've lived without the jacuzzi. Okay. Music lives on. David Bowie is etched in my heart. He's etched in my soul. That man was absolutely brilliant. But my God, oh, if I couldn't get in my jacuzzi, I'd be SOL. You can't do this to me, Dax. You can't do this to me. Just selfishly, we got to keep the jacuzzi. We got to keep the jacuzzi. My bones are just too achy. My bones just too achy. I need my jacuzzi. Please, can we reconsider just one die? We can kill 2 Slurpees. We can kill a cherry Slurpee and we can kill a cola Slurpee. No?
No, I refuse.
No, you know what? No, then David Bowie must never die. David Bowie must never die.
Achy bones it is.
Yeah.
So this last question is usually a Sophie's choice, 2 must die so that 1 may live, but we wanted to do something a little different for you. Greg Nicotero, and Robert Kurtzman were roommates in a 3-bedroom, 1-bath apartment. Based on cleanliness, courtesy, and conscientiousness, which 2 would have been voted off the island?
Oh, well, Kurtzman would have been voted off. Kurtzman was a pig. I can tell you that. I would be so grossed out because when we rented that house, okay, so yeah, it was 3 bedrooms, 1 bath. And for some reason, the whole house had carpeting in it. So Kurtzman, so Greg and I would try to get into the bathroom before Bob every morning so we could take showers. If Bob got in there, all bets were off, and I loved Bob Kurtzman like a brother. But Nicotero and I was like, we would plan it. Like if we heard Bob's alarm go off, one of us would get up and run in the bathroom, and then I'd knock on the wall, Greg's wall, so then he'd come in before Kurtzman, because Bob would make a mess out of everything. So it'd be between like stalactites in the sink from spitting toothpaste that just grew, and he never washed it down, which I still have issue with. And 2, the shower's a mess, or the floor's all wet, or the ultimate worst thing, somehow Bob overflowed the toilet onto the carpeting. That was always horrible. And for some reason, the toilets in Ohio work great, but the toilets in LA are terrible. Because Bob's from Ohio. And so it was tough living in a house only because of that reason, but we 3 of us got along so great, and we loved each other, and we're like brothers. And Greg I'll be friends with Greg till the day I die, and same with Bob.
So I understand you're not a fan of many musicals, but there are a few you like. This last question is a Sophie's choice, 2 must die so 1 may live. Rocky Horror Picture Show, Hedwig and the Angry Itch, or, as you previously mentioned, Little Shop of Horrors.
Oh, my favorites. How did you know? Oh, 2 must die so 1 may live. Well, God. Okay. There's so many reasons. Okay. Well, you know what? All right. I'll let seniority reign, and I'll axe Hedwig first, I guess.
Poor Hedwig.
I know. Just twisting the knife. I'll go. So, and then Little Shop of Horrors. You know what? Okay. I'm gonna axe Rocky Horror because
poor Rocky Horror.
I know. Well, you know what? They're all a bunch of fucking degenerates. What are they? Seymour has work ethic, and he's a good guy, and I really want him and Audrey to make it. So I think they should be the ones. I want her little somewhere that's green,
Alexis, you are a huge gamer, science nut, and sci-fi junkie. You hosted a popular video series called Project Lore about World of Warcraft, and every gamer loves snack food. You visited the Hadron Collider in Geneva, and you own Star Trek bottle openers. My last question for you is a Sophie's choice. 2 must die so that 1 may live. World of Warcraft, Star Trek, or Crunchy Flamin' Hot Cheetos?
can't believe you. Like you're a wow, you're a researcher.
It's like one of the best
I
interviews
love
I've ever done. You're amazing.
Yeah, you're amazing. I need to hire you. Dude, I'm too flabbergasted of how deep you go in the research. What is the question?
My last question for you is a Sophie's choice. So 2 must die so that 1 may live. World of Warcraft, Star Trek, or Crunchy Flamin' Hot Cheetos.
Oh, sheesh. Well, I think the answer is very obvious. Crunchy Hot Cheetos, get the fuck out of here. I've already eradicated that from my diet, but I did eat an outrageous amount of them for a very long time. I'm gonna have to say I love WoW. I miss you, WoW. I miss you so much, but fuck you. You're a bad addiction, but also I do appreciate it forever, but I could never kill Star Trek. I mean, this Next Generation and Voyager is like a part of my soul. So we get married. That's the final answer.
All right.
Thank you. Great
You're welcome. Come on. These are great posters. They're good. They're good posters.